Hello and welcome back to Brawler Bios. I'm your host Brian, and this is the podcast that, even though it's all based around Warmachine, is more so all based around the 25-point size. So whether you're going on and you're looking at Brawlmachine or Kommandant, this is going to be all about that 25-point size of the game. And more specifically, we're going to be taking a caster and then really breaking it down at that level. So what we're really going to be doing is grabbing a caster, talking about what its rules are. We're going to go and talk about a potential list you could build this thing in. And then after that, we're going to be actually going and giving it some grades. So the caster for today is going to be now going back to good old Signar, and it's going to be Captain Dominic Darius. So this is the one that's always called the big toilet man. Has not been getting a lot of love, but I gotta say, this is a caster that I like a lot, especially in 25 points. So let's do the very first thing, which is going in here and talking about what the actual rules are. So Captain Dominic Darius is a Signar Warcaster. It has Speed 5, Strength 8, Mat 6, Rat 5, Defense 13, Armor 18, and Command 8. It has 6 Focus, and then a whopping 22 boxes. So this guy is no Karchev. It's not going to be able to take 36 points of damage or something crazy like that. But honestly, it has a lot of boxes. And a lot of times I look down here, it's like, oh yeah, this is, a good 5 more boxes than what you might hope for a strong, resilient caster. And even those defensive stats alone, the 13-18 is pretty fantastic. Finding some cover to try and put him in to try and find that little bonus to defense, that's a usually pretty easy thing to do. And then that armor, just starting at 18, absolutely great. But there's also going to be 29 Warjack points. That's all right, nothing wrong with that. And then it's going to be having a number of weapons. Now, the first one on the card is going to be the Steam Cannon. This is a range 12, rate of fire 1, AoE 4, POW 14 gun. Now, there's no special rules on this range weapon. That just is what it is. But hey, why not, right? This is like, if you'd normally have like a hand cannon that's going to be like range 12, POW 12, this is just better in every way, right? It's an AoE force, you can lob it in, try and hit some random infantry, and it's already starting up at a POW 14, so not a bad gun to be having for sure. Then it's going to be having 2 melee weapons. The first one, which is the major one, is the Quake Hammer. This is a range 1 P+S 15 weapon, and it has a couple of rules. First one is critical knockdown. So on a critical hit, the model hit becomes knocked down. Now, I'm not a big fan of critical effects. I don't really feel this is something that you should normally be fishing for. However, you don't need to, because there's another rule in the card, which is a Tremor Star Attack. So before resolving damage from this attack, center a 4-inch AoE on the model directly hit. The models in the AoE become knocked down. This model is not affected by tremor. So this is exactly the same rule that you'll be seeing on an Ironclad, and so as a star attack, it would mean that you'd be losing your other melee attack. Spoiler alert, that's not a big loss. And it's the same type of thing that you see with like the Ironclad, like I said, where you can go in there as your first attack, it replaces your other ones, and then boom, if you hit, you get this big effect. Now, something that should be very clear with this is that you do not need to be attacking the model that you want to be knocking down, because you put down this AoE. So you can be, first of all, targeting something with a low defense, hit down this AoE, knock down several things, and then switch over to the real thing that you really wanted to attack. As well, there's no reason you have to be attacking an enemy model. You can be running in anything. A little friendly buddy can go right up there. You'll crank it with that Quake Hammer, knock down it and your target, and then after that, I don't care if you're defense 17 or what, you're now knocked down. So P+S 15 is not, super crazy high. It's not, 18 or anything that you'd be seeing on your really heavy beaters, but it is pretty significant. And as we're going to see, you can get a lot of attacks from this as well. Now, we did say that there wasn't another weapon on the card, and it's a simple wrench. It is a range 0.5 P plus S 11, and that's it. It has no other rules. It's just like, hey, I'm holding a wrench, so I might as well hit people with it. So very, very rarely would you ever be doing this. More often than not, I would just say pretend this doesn't exist and just do that star tremor because it's pretty fantastic. Although, do also remember with that star tremor that you could also knock down some other friendly things. So sure, I said you could be attacking a friendly thing to cause the knockdown where you want it, but it always sucks where you go after something, you do the star attack, and you're like, oh no, now I hit down this other thing that I had other plans for. So do watch that as well. All right, let's jump now to the back of the card and the special rules because there's a lot of them on here. Now, the first one you're going to be seeing on here is activate Halfjack. That's right. Darius comes as a little group of friends. It's not a unit. You get these 3 other solos that you get to come in here as well that start on the board. But let's kind of read more about these now. So, activate Halfjack. At the end of your control phase, you can put 1 Halfjack solo into play within 1 inch of this model if there are fewer than 3 Halfjacks in play in Darius's battle group. Now, this is great. This means that even if you go out there and lose these Halfjacks, you basically have infinity of these. Now, it's just like, good old Gaspy 4 where you only get 1 per turn, but it's really nice to have these free solos, especially in a smaller format like in Brawlmachine, where having these throwaway models to contest or score are very, very important. Now, there's other rules on here, but I want to stop and actually go and talk more about these Halfjacks since we're actually talking about them now. So, what is a Halfjack? A Halfjack is a Signar solo. It's speed 6. None of the other offensive things matter because it has no weapons. It is then defense 13, armor 14, and then it's a construct model, which is 1 box. Now, it has on it a couple of different rules on the back. It has companion with Darius. So what that really means is that this model is included in an army that includes Captain Dominic Darius. If Darius is destroyed or removed from play, remove this model from play as well. This model is part of Darius's battle group. Place all 3 Halfjacks in play at the start of the game. So this doesn't typically matter. I mean, yes, this is kind of telling you that you're going to be getting these 3 and they're part of the battle group. The part of this where they're removed if Darius dies, I mean, unless you're playing a multiplayer game like Kommandant or maybe a multiple caster game, like if it's a 2 versus 2 type thing, this won't matter. So in a 1 versus 1 Brawlmachine list, sure, if your caster dies, you lose the game. This never occurs. But if it's something like you're doing Kommandant, do remember that those Halfjacks will disappear as well, which is different than Gaspy 4. With Gaspy 4, those little servitors will stay in play. So a little bit of a difference there. Now, another thing that these can do is you can prime mine. So as a star action, so as a reminder, you can't run and do this. You can only advance and do it. Replace this model with a mine marker. You can have up to 3 mine markers in play at any time. After resolving continuous effects during your maintenance phase, you can detonate any number of friendly mine markers. Center a 4-inch AoE template on the detonated mine and remove the mine marker from the table. Models in the AoE are hit and suffer an unboostable POW 14 blast damage roll. This is really powerful. I mean, this is the type of thing that you can just go up there and do and really control the board. So whether you're doing this in front of your own lines and saying, look, if you want to be coming at me, I'm going to blow you up. Or maybe you're doing this around a flag and you're saying, okay, look, I know I can't really score this flag, but you have the ability to put your solo here. you can do that. You know, I no longer have this model here to contest, although you probably would have killed it anyway. But now, if you come over here with this, cool solo, I'm going to blow it up. And again, this is a POW 14, but everything in that AoE takes a POW 14. It's not like the thing in the very center takes a 14 and the rest are 7. Everything is going to be 14. So that does a lot of damage. It's even going to like chip away at jacks. I mean, it's obviously not going to do tons of damage to a jack, but it's strong enough that's at least going to do something there, and on average should be killing most solos in the game. And if for whatever reason you have a unit that wanders into this, yeah, it's just going to be wiped out. So it is fantastic. Now, the other thing that it can do is repair. It has repair 1 as a star action, and it's range base to base. Target friendly faction construct model. If the model's in range, remove 1 damage point from it. So, hey, if something's crippled, you have 3 little mechanics that's go like, nope, you're fixed, you're good to go. And this has been a very major thing to have as well, right? If you take any little bits of damage, you can kind of heal those up, but it's always nice, especially in 25 points, where if you're wondering, should I be taking a repair model or not, having free ones on the board really helps. So these half jacks, amazing. If you can use them just to do the feat thing that we're going to be talking about later, sure. If you use them just for repair, that's better. But as you get stronger as a player and you realize you can be priming these mines and contesting and scoring and just getting in the way, knowing that they're going to be coming back, yeah, these can start doing a lot of work for you. All right, that's enough of the half jacks. Let's jump back to the rules at the back here, and we have another cool one, which is going to be Crane. So, once per turn, at any time during its activation, this model can choose one other friendly large base or smaller model within 2 inches of it. You can place that model anywhere completely within 2 inches of its current location. If it's knocked down, it immediately stands up unless it became knocked down this turn. So do remember that part. So, because I mean, other times where you hear this, it's not very likely that's even going to happen, but do know that if you go in there, do a tremor attack, knock down a friend, you can't crane to pick it up and shake the knockdown. You can still move it around, but it will still be counting as knocked down. So just a big thing to really stress here. Now, what this really is a free slipstream. So whether you're extending the threat on a jack, whether you're just needing to move something out of the way, whatever it is, you just do this, right? It's not a star action. Anytime during your activation, you can do it and then move and then do it, whatever you want in there. This is just grab something within 2 inches and then move it. And because it's going to be larger or smaller, sure, yeah, you can't move a colossal, but that means in Brawlmachine, that really means anything. Anything that's a friendly thing, you can just pick up and move. So this 2 inches of extra threat, fantastic. And I mean, why not, right? It's a free thing on the card, might as well use it. We also have Repair D3 plus 3. This is another star action, just like the ones that we saw there on the half jacks, but now instead of repairing 1, it's D3 plus 3. So once again, a really great inclusion here. We're now definitely, if you're playing Darius, you do not need anything else that repairs. Between Darius and the half jacks, they got it covered. As well, you have Repairable. So this model can be targeted with repair special actions as if it were a construct model. So what this really means is that, you remember all those boxes and things that you had there? Well, if you do take a random shot, well, you can just go ahead and fix it with the little half jacks. They can just go over there and just do that. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, again, it's not something that will come up very often, but hey, sometimes in those little grindy games, it's something to keep in mind. All right, we've finally gone through all the special rules. Let's finally go and look at the spells. All right, so the first spell back here is going to be, let's talk about it. It is Arcantric Bolt. It is a cost 2, range 10, POW 12. So this is your typical offensive spell. They're like, if I have nothing else to do, let's go ahead and shoot it off. However, this is one that is slightly better because it also says a warjack damaged by this attack becomes stationary. Now, here's the thing. If you need to stationary a Warjack, this is going to be very rare. Most Warjacks you see have very low defense, so the idea of needing to do this to lower the defense, not very likely. Now, if you actually did need to do that because it has high defense, that means you're going to need a boost to hit. So this is not a cost 2 spell, it's really a cost 3 spell. And there's some risk in there because you could miss and just do nothing. Now, even if you hit, you also have to damage. And because we're talking about a Warjack here, odds are you're probably going to need to boost damage as well. So to really get that full value of that whole stationary thing, that's going to be like a 4 cost investment. So yeah, maybe not the best thing to be doing in here. Now, there is some shenanigans you can do. So if you mix in here some disruption, sure, you can go and hit a Jack that has low defense, so easy to hit, boost to do the damage to make sure it's stationary, and then if it's disrupted and stationaried, it will not have the focus to shake that stationary, and then it's not going to activate that turn. And so in a 25-point game, that can be huge. So I've actually played around with the idea of like taking Thorn or something like that. They can just be like, boop, you're stationaried, or sorry, you're disrupted rather. But now we have other cheap options as well. So you could be taking things like the Storm Tower and just shoot something and just be like, yeah, you're disrupted. And that's something where you can probably get like a hit confirm first. So look to see if you hit it with the tower, and then if you do, okay, now I'm going to go and put in the investment to actually do this. Now, I do feel that this is more janky than good, but it's one of those aces you should always be having in your sleeve, so when it's the right time to pull it out, it's good to go. Now, the next spell is going to be Fortify. It is a cost 2, range 6, upkeep spell, and it says, target Warjack in the spellcaster's battle group gains +2 arm. The affected model and any friendly models base to base with it cannot become knocked down, pushed, or moved by a slam. Now, I know Signar has better armor spells where you could be having Arcane Shield, which gives you 3 armor rather than 2. However, this is also a nice spot to be shutting down those other effects. So if you're up against an army that wants to knock you down or push you around or anything like that, hey, now this model will be immune to that and any other model touching it as well. So if you find yourself up against, something that's going to be pulling you around, well, hey, everybody huddle around the fortified model, and now we're going to be safe. So a really nice thing to be having in here. The next spell on here is going to be Full Throttle. Cost 3, range self, lasts for the turn, and it says, Warjacks in the spellcaster's battle group beginning their activations in the control range can run, charge, or make slam or trample power attacks without spending any focus. And while in the spellcaster's control range, models in his battle group gain boosted melee attack rolls. This lasts for 1 turn. Now, this is something that depends on how much value you're going to get from it. Because even though it sounds amazing to charge for free and get boosted to hits, this only matters if you were going to be doing those things. So at the start of your turn, you should probably go and start thinking about that. So, basically this is how it goes. If you're in combat, so you're not going to be charging, you're up against things that are easy to hit, this is a waste of time. You would never cast this spell. However, if you're in a spot where look, we're all about the charge, so instead of going in and spending that focus for this, I can now have that focus to be buying attacks. Well, okay, there's 1 focus for every Jack that's going to be charging. And if I'm in a spot where I'm up against something with some relatively high defense, where I might be missing a lot of attacks, so I might be either boosting the hit to mitigate that or end up having to buy more attacks to finish the job. Once that value becomes 3 or higher, okay, let's just do Full Throttle. We'll just throw that in there and play it safe. Now, Do realize that this is boosted melee attacks, not additional, so you can't do full throttle and boost and get like 4 dice to hit. That's not how it works, but this is just one of those things where you have to quickly do some mental math and just be like, will I be spinning this, yes or no? And because we're talking about 25 points, to be honest, this will be no more often than not. Like in 75 points, you can have a lot of jacks, so it's really easy to get the value of this, but you know, when we're talking about 25, it's going to be something you really want to think about to see whether it's the right turn for it or not. Now, we also have another spell on here, which is Jackhammer, and this is a really good spell. So, it's a cost 1, range 6, and it says, target model in Spellcaster's Battle Group immediately makes 1 basic melee attack. So really what this allows you to do is a lot of different things. If they ran up to you and tried to block your jack, you can, you know, jackhammer and then try and hit the thing out of the way and then be able to activate that jack and do something after. Or if your jack goes in and isn't able to finish the job, okay, jackhammer, now we finally got there. And what it also means is that your jack can just like run into combat, and even though its activations ends, then you're like, okay, jackhammer, you thought you were safe, and then I just ran up there and got to you. Now, this can also do a little bit of work with Crane. Note that unless you're like having your jack way back and Darius in the front, you're not going to be in a spot where you can be, you know, craning after a run and jackhammer. However, maybe it's something where like you have some fighting going up close, and if you kill everything that's in range, okay, use my crane, move you now by something else, and then jackhammer. So there's some shenanigans to be had here, but this is something that can be adding a lot of damage. And this is another spot where you might need to use that full throttle, right? I mean, whereas things can be going and trying to boost a hit on their own activation, well, this is not their activation right now, right? So if you want to make sure this thing's hit, you could do full throttle and then buy some jackhammers. That's a thing that you can do. But again, just keep that in mind for when it's going to be worthwhile. All right. Finally, we have Refuge. Now, Refuge is a cost 2, range 6 upkeep spell, and it says, at the end of an activation in which target friendly faction model hit an enemy model with an attack, so this could be range, this could be melee, whatever, the affected model can make a full advance. It cannot be targeted by free strikes during this movement. So this is perfect for hit and run, or even hit and get even deeper. So let's say, for example, you are in a spot where you can charge in and do some damage, but then I'm going to be vulnerable to being taken out, right? The usual peace trade stuff. Well, no, you can go in there, hit something, and then be able to refuge away. Another thing is keep in mind this works for guns. So if you have a small range gun, you can go in there, take a shot, and even though you've put yourself in danger by moving up to do that, I hit something, so now I get to refuge away. Now do notice that if you don't hit something, you cannot trigger refuge. So it's a lot more dangerous for a gunshot than it is for, hitting you with a hammer, where I can be doing that multiple times, but it can really get you into some interesting places. Again, think again as well with Jackhammer that you can charge in, destroy a jack or whatever, and then refuge over, get to something else, and then jackhammer again. So this is a lot of movement shenanigans that we have here on this. I mean, people look at Darius and see the Toilet Man and be like, yeah, it's a silly healing thing. No. There's a lot of shenanigans to be had. Now, I mentioned healing, and that's because of the feat. So with that, let's jump over. So the feat is called Pit Stop, and what it says is Darius, actually, let's leave this part. I'm going to be saying this first part last. Let's start with what it says after this. This turn, Darius and Warjacks in his battle group can have damage removed with repair regardless of other special rules. So if there's been Grievous or anything like that, you can still heal. Darius and Halfjacks in his battle group currently in his control range can each completely repair Darius or one friendly faction warjack with which he or it is in base to base. Remove all damage from those models. So this is kind of like the classic Darius. And in fact, actually before that whole part where like it gets around Grievous wasn't there either. So, this now just says, hey, did you hurt me? Go in there. I'm going to heal you up. Now, the reason why people look at this and don't like Darius is they're like, yeah, this is garbage, right? I mean, you can go in there and heal something, but typically things are killed, right? If I go in to take out a Jack, I'm taking it out. Now, I think that really applies for 75-point games, but less so in 25. In 25, things can get a little bit more grindy. It's a lot more often that you cannot finish off a Jack. And so this ability to go and heal something up completely, very nice to have. However, that's not the whole thing that's on here. There is also that first part that I left out, which is Darius gains 1d3 plus 2 focus. So somewhere between 3 and 5 focus, on average 4. Now that 4 focus can do a lot for you. It is past allocation, so I can't use that to allocate to Jacks, but I don't need to because I have Jackhammer. And this is where I feel the real power of Darius is, because with this, let's just assume the average, 4 focus from this. We have 6 that we start with. We can be getting another one from the Squire. That means that we can Jackhammer 11 times. And in a 25-point game, that can be devastating. And again, the whole idea of what you're doing with Jackhammer is normally mitigated because, look, there's only so many things in my range. However, when we're talking about things like Refuge and we're talking about things like having Crane, you can really get the full value from this. And so if you really changed over this feat, is like, okay, what the feat really lets you do is Jackhammer like 10 times, people would realize that, oh, this is amazing. This is a really aggressive caster that gets a lot of damage done. However, since classically in Mark II, he was all about healing, and healing is still on there, that's all they think about. So to me, that's the cherry on top. That's an extra thing that if you can do it, fantastic. And if not, whatever, it's still, you get all that other benefit from it. And I mean, really, if all you do is like heal up a few boxes from some Jacks, sure, it's better than not having it healed. So there is just tons of healing here, tons of damage, tons of shenanigans. So with that in mind, let's actually look at a potential list. Now, the way that I decided to go with this list is I went to heavy metal. The reason why I went with this theme is because you get to, more importantly than anything else, be able to go and get some repo in here. So your solos and your mechanic units get to have reposition. And this allows you to get just a little bit deeper in or do what you need with your half jacks and get them to the right spots. Now, on top of this, this also allows it that any repair also repairs an additional 1. So now your little half jacks are healing 2 all the time, and Darius is going to be D3 plus 4. So this is just a nice little bonus that you get on there. Plus, I like the ideas of what you get for your free stuff. Now, what I took in here was, of course, Captain Dominic Darius. I have my 3 half jacks, and then what I took for the battle group was, first of all, a Centurion. I think that whenever you have Signar and you have something that can boost up armor and be able to be like healing things, the Centurion just gets amazing. So Centurion auto include in here. Now, the Centurion can also be a really good spot for that actual Jackhammer, but one thing I want to clarify is that it does have critical sustained attack. So on a critical hit during this model's combat action, attacks made with this weapon automatically hit after this is really what it says. So some people think that if you go the Centurion, get lucky and get that critical, that now all my Jackhammers will automatically hit as well. No, it's only during that combat action. So once you move past that, they no longer automatically hit. But hey, whatever, we're Mat 7. We can be doing, what's that spell? Full throttle if we need it. We can hit if we need to. Now, talking about hitting if you need to, one of the pieces that I really like in here is a Thunderhead. Now, you might think I'm crazy, and I probably am, but here's the thing. Thunderhead is amazing with this caster. First of all, you have the crane to get up there to make it threaten even further, And then on top of that, you also have Refuge. Now, since that pulse ability on the Thunderhead will automatically hit, you always know you're going to be getting to Refuge. And as well on top of that, we do have Critical Disruption on its actual attacks. So if we're going in there and we're trying to punch and try and do some work, if we hit something and can't really finish it off, well, we can then go after and use that jank to actually go and try and make sure it's not going to be doing anything after that, right? We're going to disrupt it. We're going to stationary it. It's not going to do anything after this. It's not the best thing, right? It's a critical effect, and obviously it'd be in combat, but hey, I wanted to have that jank in here somewhere. Now, after that, I decided to put in a defender. Now, the reason why I wanted the defender is, one, to get another long-range gun just to put some pressure on, but as well, it's a pretty good beater and a pretty nice thing to be going with Jackhammer. For those who don't know, it's a POW 17, so that's not maybe the craziest thing, but it also has Cortex damage. So every time you hit, you just do 1 damage to a Cortex. So one of the things that can be amazing in here is you just run that defender forward, and then you just get it into their jacks, Jackhammer, Jackhammer, Jackhammer. Oh, what's that? You have no more Cortexes? Yeah, this game is now on easy mode. So if you can catch that, it's fantastic. If you're just throwing out some big shots, sure, why not? You know, like a range 16, POW 15 gun's always going to be good. Now, I took my free option as Strange Ways, and then I also decided to go in here and take a Squire. So because we're wanting to do a lot of work here, and because as well, Dominic did not have a magical weapon. If you didn't hear that, I did not say that Quick Hammer is magical. So we are limited here on what the magical attacks are. So Strange Ways helps with that and gives us some extra focus wherever we need it. And then the Squire there, like I said, because we want to be able to Jackhammer as much as possible. Now, finally, I had 2 points, and I put in some mechanics. Now, you might think that this is stupid because, well, Brian, you got so much repair in here. You have Dominic that can repair, the half-jacks, you even threw in Strange Ways. However, these are not here for repair. These are in here because I don't have a unit. And even though I'm going to be running this strong line with a lot of solos and tough jacks, I don't have any units in here. So 2 points for a unit that can score or be something that can just get in the way. You know, those little goblin parts of them that are defense 14, they do a lot of work for that. So they're just a great unit just to score and get in the way. And that's it. I think that there's a lot of different ways you could play around with this and have obviously lots of jacks in here. But yeah, if you have something that you can jackhammer, you're going to do just fine. So with that being said, let's get on to our grades. And the first thing we're going to be grading is, what does Darius have for answers? Now, what we're talking about here is that if we saw a skew, we're seeing a skew of high armor, high defense, high whatever, does Darius have what he needs to actually deal with these things? And I think absolutely. Now, what we have for high defense is we have full throttle, although that's not a perfect thing because we're obviously putting in a lot of resources to do this, but as long as we're getting, having a heavy battle group, which we should anyway, this is fixing that defensive skew. If we're ever seeing something that's going to be having high armor rather, then now that's where the jackhammer comes in. We're not doing extra damage in terms of this jack is getting +2 to its damage rolls. We're just making it do extra attacks, which will do that same damage. So this has great answers. Now, does it have answers for other things like stealth and stuff like that? No, we don't have things that are going to be answering clouds or anything else like that. We just have those classics of high defense and dealing with some high armor as well. So when it comes to my grade on the answers, I can't give it an A because it doesn't have all those different things. We don't have ways of taking up upkeeps or anything like that, but this is definitely to me like a B+. There's a lot of strong answers here on the card. Now, what about questions? What do we have here for questions saying what is my opponent going to be worrying about, where if they can't answer this, they're going to lose? And to me, the biggest thing here for that is going to be, first of all, the repair. If they don't have a good way of dealing with our jacks and taking them off the table, they will be punished for it. If they're hoping that they can just stay away and plink away at us, no, we're just going to keep on healing. And if they can come in and do most of the damage to a Centurion but not kill it, it's basically like they did nothing at all. We're going to feat, and we're going to be causing a lot of problems for them, especially when you have like Fortify on there as well. So in 25 points, that actually is a big part of the question. Another part of the question here for them to be figuring out as well is that threat. That threat that, hey, any one of my jacks could just run over to you and I could start jackhammering and I could start getting this work. So that's something that they also have to think about, is just like there could be whatever jack I see. If I have one jack on one flank and one jack on another flank, I can still be getting like, 13 attacks from that jack if I needed to, right? So yeah, they can be doing a lot of work. Now, that being said, that's not the biggest questions to be asking. It's something, but it's not like the most powerful. So I think when it comes to this, then I'm going to be giving this more like probably a C plus, maybe a B minus if I wanted to be a little bit more nice on this. But it's not something that's amazingly strong. If you have a strong player that knows how to take out jacks and how to focus on things, that first part's not going to come in. And really that last part with aggression, I mean, it's good again, but it's not something that's going to really dominate games. So for that, I think I honestly, even though I want to go up higher, I think I'm just going to be saying a C plus for this one. All right, now let's talk about personal output. It's late in the game, there's another jack, and Darius has to take it out, otherwise you're going to lose. Can Darius take out an enemy jack? Absolutely. So especially if it still has its feet, it's going to have 10 focus going in there with its POW 15s. It can probably smash its way through, or at least cripple it so much that it's basically done. So this is like an A minus. It's not an A huge, like it's not like it's a POW 18 that does Thresher and all this crazy stuff, but this is definitely an A minus. If you have a person that goes up, it goes like, oh, Toilet Man can't kill me. No, Toilet Man will kill you. It will go in there, it'll tremor you down, and then just have all the focus it needs to finish you off. So definitely a very strong part of Darius that most people don't think about, because again, that D3+2 focus is brand new since the update. And even though people are realizing this with someone like Sturgis, they're not talking about it with Darius yet. So it's definitely something that's really important there. So, okay, an A minus for personal output, but how about for a new player? If I had a new player come to me and say, look, Brian, I'm starting up Brawlmachine, and I think that my first caster is going to be Darius. Part of me is a little bit resilient because there's a lot of things in there that a new player is not going to really understand right off from the beginning. However, there's enough here that I feel that they can do a lot of cool stuff to begin with and will have a lot of room to grow. So Darius is resilient. So if your standard new player makes a mistake and then all of a sudden Darius gets attacked, it's going to survive a lot better than a lot of other casters. And it's going to be able to do a lot of fun things, right? I'm going to be able to get out there. I can just do these guns. I can do these jackhammers. A new player may be discouraged though, because if they do feel that Darius is the repair caster rather, and then your jacks get destroyed before you can actually repair them, they might be like, oh, Darius can't do their thing. So there is that reluctance where there's a lot of growth and something that they need to understand, but it's still something that I think they would do well with. So I'm going to be saying, like a B. I think this is a great idea. It is a powerful one. Lots of cool things they need to do, but hopefully somebody is there to guide them along the way to say, look, this is not just a repair caster. There's a lot of neat things you can do, and hopefully they can learn them over time. Now, what if somebody came to me and said, as an experienced player, I am taking Darius to your next Brawlmachine tournament and I am looking to win. How well do I think they can do? I think they could do extremely well. I think that there is pretty much everything that you need here as an experienced player to really take it home and win a tournament. And so I'm going to say that this here is going to be like an A caster for your experienced player wanting to win a game of Brawlmachine. I am shocked. I am shocked that this has not been more popular and more played, because to me, this is everything you need to try and win games. So I really hope that, from doing this longer one here, that people realize this. I keep on trying to say the words of Darius and be like, come on, guys, try it out. But it's just, I think it's one of those things where people just don't see it and they're like, oh, he's just that repair guy and you never get to repair anyway because of Grievous and all this other stuff. It's like, no, he's completely different now. First of all, those things don't stop it anymore. And now, as well, on top of this, you now get all this extra focus, which makes him so much more deadly than it was before. So anyway, there's Darius. I hope you enjoyed this nethercast of Brawler Bios. We do this every 2 weeks, so if you liked it, please come on back. And otherwise, if you have any feedback, shoot it my way. I love to know what you're thinking. If you have any suggestions for future ones, let me know about that too. And otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.